This time, Odd's interview guest is multi-award-winning filmmaker and actor Harley Wallen. He has starred in over 40 feature films and TV shows with legendary stars such as Tom Sizemore, Tara Reid and John Savage among many others. In 2016, Harley and his wife Kaiti formed the film production company Painted Creek Productions. The one thing he really takes pride in is his commitment to the character he is playing, regardless the size of the role or the paycheck. Harley is now writing, producing, acting and directing and has found his life's purpose. We enjoyed speaking with Harley. We hope you enjoy this interview.
Harley, I want to thank you for joining me, man.
No, thank you for having me. I mean, this is awesome, especially when I find out that I'm about to have an interview and it's always with somebody from somewhere else and you being right around the corner from me. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Joe was most eager about. That was the one thing he kept saying. He's from Michigan too. He's from Michigan too.
Right? Yeah, there's something odd and tribal about those type of things. And I don't even know, I'm Swedish, so I'm not even from here. And I'm already a little tribal about my area. When an actor, blows up and they're from Michigan, I'm like, yeah.
Hey, buddy.
And then I'm like, I don't even know why.
Detroit hustles harder.
Yes. I'm right with you. They product placed in our last film, actually. They were product placed in Tale of Tales, too.
Sweet.
Yeah,
all right,
man.
So you've got 63 acting credits, 19 directing credits, 25 producer credits, and 14 writing credits. Harley, is it safe to say that you don't like sitting still very long?
Oh my God, that's a big problem for me. It really is. And I've noticed now that we do our premieres in LA, we do a lot of meetings and we're in talks with some studios. I think a lot of people really love to meet about movies, talk about movies, shake hands and thank the audiences and the guild. I want to make movies. That's when I'm the happiest is either when I'm with my wife and kids, I love that, or when I'm making a movie. That's it for me. I'm alive.
I understand it. I am in the same boat when it comes to radio and all the audio production and stuff that I do behind the scenes. Yeah. I get it. That zest for what you do.
Oh God, it's pumping through my and the scary thing is after you find it, you can't be without it.
It's like a drug.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. At the entertainment industry, whatever arena you're in, is the most addictive substance you will ever run across.
Absolutely. I was just in LA. We had a screening at the Chinese theater and the Q&A went over. We ended up in the seats outside and people were still asking questions 2 hours later. And that was a high for me. I swear to God, it's probably like the wedding day for some people or something like that. And I'm like, this is so incredibly, and I don't take any of it for granted. So to sit there and have all these people, being so interested, the fact that they watched my movie is enough. I'm a happy camper that the fact that they took the time to, because there's a million other movies that they could have watched.
No, that's true. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but my notes here say that as a kid, you had two areas you excelled in, martial arts and dance. Moreover, dancing is what landed you your first acting role.
Yes.
Tell us more.
So I got into breakdancing as a kid. We were doing graffiti. We were breakdancing. We were just, I think, a part of rebelling and growing up and finding your own. And I was so fascinated with breakdancing because, I just don't see how you can take dance any further. It just seems like, after you spin on your hand and head and everything else, there's only so much more that you can do. So I literally fell in love with it as a kid and got pretty good at it. So when a big cabaret show, it's a syndicated TV show in Sweden called Solstolarna, they had a cabaret style show on TV and they had musical guests every week. And a part of that was to have set dancers for their song and for some of the shifting of the set. And what they started doing was when they had a one-liner, two-liner, they would, instead of hiring an outside actor, they came over to us and said pretty much, hey, you want to come buy the suntan lotion in the store? And I was always the guy who was like, yeah, I want to do it. And I walked in, you start hanging out with the actors. And when you don't know about acting and you start digging into acting, it's almost like you thought that you had a little well, and then you just dig and dig and dig, and it never ends. It's the more you know about acting, the less you know about acting. And I love topics like that. And martial arts is the same way. You think you know a whole lot when you're a white belt and a yellow belt, and then the longer you go, the less you feel you know. So, I was a 5th degree black belt on the Swedish national team in judo, and I felt I was less confident about what I knew winning giant tournaments around the world than I remember when I was like 9 and started. I was like 3 months in, I'm like, all right, I got this. I think I know this stuff now. And it's just funny how that works.
I used to work with a guy who was into Brazilian jiu-jitsu and high up there. I forget what belt he had, but that was one thing that he would say constantly is the higher you get, the more likely you are to screw up because you get too confident. You underestimate your opponent because you overestimate your ability.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I could definitely see that.
Now, you had mentioned before, you're originally from Sweden. With them being so well known for putting people first, what on earth caused you to leave and move to the U.S. and specifically Michigan?
Well, so I, at the time, went to New York. I'd done some work there. I went to Toronto, did some work there. Went to Miami a few times. I was this close to ending up in Miami. But the truth is, as an actor, Sweden is very limited. Even now, we have 10 million citizens in Sweden, and there's only so many channels to watch and stuff like that. It's obviously getting better, but independent film, I just didn't really know a whole lot of people doing anything that was quality. I know some people now, but it's still way harder to do it in Sweden than what it is here. So for me, it was about acting and getting opportunity. And with me not starting originally in acting and being, pedigreed the way a lot of those people are, a good friend of mine, Jan Birch from The People Under the Stairs, he plays the Stairmaster in The People Under the Stairs. He has the pedigree. His dad did all that stuff, and Jan was doing it early on. And for us, I hired my first acting coach, I think I was 18, and that's super late for a lot of those the purist. So I think they look at you a little bit differently. And here there's more of an entrepreneur spirit in America. And I that's one thing I like, is that it still exists today, that American dream, whatever that has become, which I know it's not what it used to be. And it's kind of probably a watered down version, but you still can. And I think in some countries you can't. Huh?
I said we woke up from the dream.
Right. Yeah.
But it sounds like as an actor, America presented more freedom for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do I miss some of the things about Sweden? Like when it comes to healthcare? Yeah. I would take Sweden's healthcare system every day and twice on Sunday over what we have here.
Me too.
Our public transportation system, or just our way. Like in Sweden, if you lose your job, you get money from the government and schooling from the government to continue educate you so that you can become productive again. Here, I feel like it's so cutthroat and hardcore. You barely get any money, and you got to get right back out there. And the problem is, when you don't focus on education, is you keep people at the bottom because they're undereducated and they don't know as much. Some of these people get a little lucky. They get into sales or something and make some money, but a lot of people are just kept in paycheck to paycheck their whole life. Mm-hmm. And it's just not a good system. There's a lot of things we can learn, but what I do like, though, is entrepreneurship is rewarded here and has opportunity, and that is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't disagree with you, without going off on the political rails too much here. Yeah. I just want to let you know that everything that my almost 40 years has taught me is it's designed that way for a reason. Oh,
for sure. We can keep it right there, but I'm with you. The system is definitely rigged, without a doubt. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And it's been that way for a while. The gap is widening, and I don't think it's going to stop until somebody says no more.
Yeah.
And I think not to get political, but I think we're almost there. This great exodus that we've had of people quitting their jobs, I think that's a part of the problem. Is it's not doing what we wanted it to do. Now they're raising prices and record profits to bounce back, which is another like you didn't get it. That was not what this was about.
We need one voice, and we don't have that. We have 1,000 voices screaming different things at different people. So Harley, I'm going to tell you right now, I'd like to actually invite you out to the studio at some point, or out to my home, and actually do a show with me, and we'll talk about this, because these are topics that
I'd love to.
We'll give you a pseudonym too, so it doesn't hurt your career any.
I'm not afraid of talking about things. I think it's important when you get a platform and when you get an audience. I think it's important to help educate, but you just got to be smart about how. And I think a lot of the times when we start acting like we're better than people and smarter than people, maybe we are, but that's not the right thing and right way to tackle things. I think we can do it with some humility and a little bit of understanding. I always say I extend a lot of grace, because I've required a lot of grace in my life. You know, growing up a breakdancer and a fighter, and not knowing, my dad my whole life, some anger issues in my younger years, especially. So I haven't been very perfect myself. So I try to be super understanding with people, because I had a rough path to get through, especially my teens and stuff. So for me, I try to be as understanding of people as possible. Because that's the one thing we all screw up all the time. We got to try to extend the patience and courtesy that we needed at one point ourselves.
I coined a phrase through the show. Mind you, I've been in radio for almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years next month. And I coined a phrase during the show, and it's served me well in life, well enough that I've shared it with others. And it's very simple. Don't let your past fuck up your future.
I love it.
So now I know your mother, as it seems to be for a lot of actors that I've spoken to, was your first exposure to the entertainment industry. What drew you in most about it?
I grew up with some crazy stuff. My mom was for a bit a really high-end singer. I have little kitty pictures of me sitting in a hotel room with my mom and Eartha Kitt when I was a year old or something like that. And that was kind of when my mom hung it up to be a full-time mom. And she'd open for somebody at some big thing. And it runs in our family. My sister's a professional singer. My brother-in-law's a professional singer. So a lot of music in our veins, not as much acting. And I actually really thought I was going to go that route, because when I was doing the breakdancing thing, I released a few songs. Couple of them went all the way to the canned music market. So it was a lot of fun, but I think I made the right choice. I think this is where I'm supposed to be. But yeah, my mom's a huge influence on me, artistically as a person. She's my role model. She's an amazing woman.
I understand. I am quite proud of my mother as well.
That's awesome.
So I got to ask, who were your acting idols?
I think the very first time I realized that it was a whole different level of things was De Niro in Taxi Driver. And I was so into that style and that the level of acting and the deep layers that takes. And then I remember seeing Stripes with Bill Murray, and I was like, completely different yet the same. So the two of them are very high on my list. I still love Pacino and Denzel. If you ask me for a female lead, I would pick Jodie Foster almost every time. She just takes my breath away when she's on screen. She's still to this day just absolutely breathtaking in her acting, and I love it. The younger generation, I think Brad Pitt's going to be remembered as something pretty special. And he's a funny one, because I remember in Thelma and Louise,
mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure he was acting. You know what I mean? Like, I just did they find him out there and he lived in a trailer? Like, he just it just felt like he was that guy so much, and I'd never seen him before, and I was just taken. I remember, you know, walking out of the theater going like, yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye out for that guy, because man, that was good. And he was across from giant actresses at the time, and just kind of stole the show.
There are several actors that I'm often curious if they're actually playing a character or they're just being themselves. Ryan Reynolds is one of them. I'm fairly certain that he just comes in and he's Ryan Reynolds in the role, whatever it is.
Yep, I agree.
You know, there's a handful of
what
other
about
actors.
Will Ferrell?
I'm not a huge Will Ferrell fan. There's only
Even
one
if you're
movie
not a
that I
fan-
like him in.
Yeah, I it's not even about fandom, but dude, he commits to whatever it is.
Oh yeah,
to the umpteen degree. Like him and Jim Carrey, they do these crazy things. If you look up acceptance speeches for awards and stuff, there are so many crazy performances of them going up on stage as somebody else, just letting it rip. And I love that. That's the special thing about especially comedic actors when they do that. It just like, oh, wow.
Well, it was best illustrated in the movie. I got to remember the name of it. The Prestige.
Yes.
There's a line about an old Chinese magician. Mm-hmm. And it basically comes down to they're never out of character if they're in public. You mm-hmm. know, the performance is always going on until they're behind closed doors. And you got to respect someone that can do that can live inside that character for so long. Yeah.
Oh no, definitely. And you saw that with some of the method guys too, where some of them you'd see them like Joaquin Phoenix is one of them guys.
Oh yeah,
amazing
Joaquin
actor.
Phoenix, yeah.
But man, oh man, like when you watch him, sometimes you're like, I don't know which one is the real him.
Well, Heath Ledger, I mean, he played the Joker, and I remember reading articles that Jack Nicholson pulled him aside at a party or a shindig or something like that, and was like, you be careful with that role.
Oh,
and, you know, Ledger dove into it and unfortunately didn't have a ladder to get back out.
Yeah. No, that stuff is crazy. I think about Christian Bale and The Mechanic and some of that stuff. It's like, De Niro, whether it's in Cape Fear when he looks like a freaking bodybuilder, or then he's the Al Capone, you know, and he's probably 270 pounds. And from what I heard, all kinds of health problems because of it, and just to be able to fully become, it's just amazing. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I think that you have to have a source of empathy and sympathy for others as an actor in order to be able to live them out loud.
I think it's a 50-50 good and bad situation.
Probably. I've been at places, not to that degree, but I can remember shooting scenes, especially when you're across from really good actors and you're in the middle of it and you hear cut and you're like, oh shit.
I was on a roll.
Yeah, we were. No, not that, but like I've forgotten that we were acting.
Oh,
you know what I mean? The cameras, all that stuff is gone, and I'm with this dude, and he's trying to, and then I hear cut, and I'm like, oh shit, that was not for real. Wow.
I was really about to punch this guy.
I know, it's weird. I mean, but you've drilled the lines and everything so deep that you're gonna stick to the script within at least maybe a tiny ad lib here and there, but it comes out of you so real. And when the other person is that real, you lose it and you're truly in the moment. And that's the most special place ever, because it reminds me of fighting. Because when in my fighting days, the referee pins that gate down, and you're inside of 8 walls of steel, and it's about to go down, and it's just you and him. Nobody's coming to save you.
That's right, because you've got a MMA background too.
Yeah. I still do commentary for WXC on UFC Fight Pass. But yeah, I was undefeated as a professional when I fought. But I loved that part. Like when everything else is gone and it's just you and your opponent, the amount of focus we can be, whatever if you're hungry, tired, like all those things that we feel all the time, they're all gone. When that fight starts, you don't have any of that.
Right. And well, it's cool. It's fun. I don't know if it's fun. It's cool and it's weird. There's scientific studies that have said that we're only as strong as our brain tells us we are.
I absolutely believe it.
So when you mention that focus where everything kind of dims away and you're basically pinpointed on your current objective. Yeah.
You go from a flashlight to a laser beam.
Yeah. I've got some questions about the MMA stuff a little bit later, so I don't want to get too far ahead.
For sure.
I want to ask you this though. As an actor, what is a dream role for you?
I'll tell you this, out of what I've so far played, playing Nick in Tale of Tales has been so far my favorite because he's so outlandish. He just doesn't care, walks to the beat of his own drum, and he doesn't even notice when he steps on toes. I am really opposite of that. I am extra careful, and I probably think too much about others at times. So for me to play somebody where I can just let go and not worry. I mean, he tells his girlfriend that pretty much he wants her to give him back rubs and suck his dick. Like, that's literally what he says. And even though that might be the thought of a lot of guys, they don't just say it and they don't get away with it. So Nick is the guy who doesn't give a shit. If she doesn't want to do it, he'll find somebody else. And if he has to put in a rotating team, he's cool with that too. He just doesn't care. And it's just like, I've met people kind of like that. So they're fascinating. There's some special, but not necessarily good, but some special, definitely.
Definitely freeing, let you get out of your own headspace for a little bit. Oh,
yeah. And you learn a lot about yourself when you act. But so that's it. I mean, I think that's generally it. If I was a little younger, I'd probably say, a James Bond or Jason Bourne type of would be fun to do. But some kind of, I love the mobster phenomenon and the biker phenomenon because there's something I really respect about their code. That they don't follow things because they're law or whatever. They follow it because this is how it is, and respecting your family and looking out for your kind and all that stuff. It is as a tribal thing in us that I think pulls us in. I've always loved mobster movies. It's one of those things that I have a soft spot for. A good mobster movie I'll take any day. If I catch Godfather on, I'll watch it just because.
I don't know what my mother was planning for my future, but I do know that as a child, the music box that she wound up every night before I went to sleep was the same song in The Godfather.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, there was that da 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 da. Yeah, every night as a child.
And that's the master score too. I don't know why, but it really is.
Yeah. Okay, so your IMDb lists an uncredited role in Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. What was your role, and was it tough, an exciting shoot? Like, I'm a nerd and I love comic books and comic book movies, so I have to get some details.
So I am a big time comic nerd too. I grew up primarily on Spider-Man, but the Marvel universe was kind of, I loved X-Men and Spider-Man specifically. I had a phase where I cheated on them with the Fantastic Four, but pretty much that's the extent of it. And we never went to third base. We were only on first and second. Anyways, so
they let you slip between the pages. That's all that matters.
Right. So it's kind of funny knowing that Batman vs Superman was going to come to Detroit. They called one of the head MMA guys here in Michigan and pretty much said, hey, we're going to have an underground fight scene. We'd like to have a local referee for the fight. And I was at the time just retired and had been reffing for a while. So they call me up and they say, hey, I might have a role for you in this. So I talked to them everything was good to go. It wasn't anything complicated. It was a couple of lines, and then it's over. And then the director changed his mind and said, hey, it's not going to feel very underground if we have a ref. So we're just going to have two dudes fight. So essentially they said, what do we do with the guy who's the referee? And he said, oh no, make him the coach of one of the fighters. So what ended up happening is I became the coach of the guy who was the winning fighter. And because of the fact that they shot, 50% more than what they needed, my lines got cut and one of my scenes got cut. So at the end of the day, if you watch it right now, you'll see me, but you would have no idea who I was. I'm just one of the guys yelling at the fight, as it seems.
Hey, you're still part of superhero history.
Right? Yeah, no, it was cool. And just seeing, they were shooting that one on big rigs too. It was amazing, the equipment they had, and the light setups were crazy.
Those scenes would have been shot at the Russell Industrial Complex in downtown Detroit, right?
No, that one was, it was not in the Masonic Temple. Maybe it was the Masonic Temple, but it was in the kitchen area of a big ballroom. So I think it was the Masonic.
It would have been, more than likely.
Yeah, I think it's Masonic, and then when you walk through the kitchen, there's this big room in between, and that's where it was. And then they had the bar set up because after Bruce Wayne, after he wins, he walks back in and he does that phone scan thing. Before he walked up and scanned the phone, there's a piece where I'm, helping my fighter out with, icing down his face. And he walks over and says, good job. And that scene was gone. And then at the end of the fight, I go in and raise his hand and say, here's your new champion, and all that stuff. But yeah, they cut. I had a bunch of my friends that were in also, some for lines, some without, but there's so much on the chopping block from that film. And from what I gather, I think they overemployed Michigan small talent in order to qualify for the
film incentive.
Yeah. So we all have a feeling that we were probably never really, unless it was just perfect. The plan was probably never really to put us in there.
That's a shame. I know the Michigan incentive was supposed to be a really, really good thing for, homegrown independent filmmakers, but I know at the end of the day, it left a bad taste in a lot of their mouths.
Oh yeah. Well, and the problem for the local indie film community is when you give incentives to the big multi-million-dollar films, what happens is they come here with their own DP, with their own gaffer, with their own, key personnel.
The circus comes to town.
Yep. And then they hire, our cinematographer becomes a second or third AC, and he comes off the market for us local filmmakers. Our makeup artists are all sucked into the machinery, and they're all doing makeups on extras suddenly, even though they're probably qualified to do special effects. And what they really need to do is practice that. So in all honesty, the film incentives are great for Hollywood. They're great for our local actors to a certain degree, but they're not good for the community, and the money doesn't stay here.
No.
There are much, much better ways to make the money stay here and to bring a young, thriving, artistic community. If you incentivize, ultra low budget films under $300,000 in SAG budgets, if you incentivize them, you could give better, and then you could just make it a thing that you have to have 80% of the people on the film have to live in the whatever city or state or whatever region. Mm-hmm. And now you would build up a community of people that live here. I don't understand how that doesn't make way more sense.
Well, and I know too, sometimes when productions come to town, whether it's here in Michigan or anywhere else, they tie up streets, they shut down businesses and things like that. It's all the cost of doing business essentially. But I mean, it really does impact whatever community they're in.
Yeah. both positively and negatively. Yeah. Obviously, you will get I know a lot of restaurants that were catering in Detroit gone when the film incentives left, tons of them, and transportation companies, not to mention the film schools here locally were thriving, and they're not doing the same way they used to now, and some of that is the marketplace, because it's a lot trickier of a marketplace as well when it comes to releasing a film, because there's 5 million streaming outlets now, and where do you get people now? Some people don't even go to the theaters anymore. So getting a theatrical release is not necessarily an advantage.
Well,
it's an expense.
I actually just spoke to a director and a actress, screenwriter, film. The list of credits on both of them is extensive, and I had asked them, because that's usually a big question that I like to ask when I'm talking to actors and filmmakers in general, is how do you feel about streaming? Because you mentioned people don't even go to the movies anymore. I got social anxiety. I've got cleanliness issues. I've got a whole host of things that they would be considered invisible disabilities that keep me from being able to go enjoy movies like a normal person.
Yeah.
And so I am stuck trying to avoid spoilers for 45 days, waiting for it to come to home video, which I personally think that they need to do, but that's topic for another time. But the big thing that usually comes out is, like it or not, streaming is the only way to go at this point. You can't fight it.
There have been some exceptions, and we're rolling the dice this summer when Ash and Bone comes out. We unless we get, I know right now they're in talks with a big streamer with potentially a pretty good offer. If we take that, then it comes off and it goes right on to the streaming site. But it is tricky. Last 2 years ago, another Michigan duo, the Pierce brothers, made the Wretched up in Traverse City, and they during COVID had the #1 movie in America between drive-ins and whatever else. So there still are ways to do it, but there's very little rhyme and reason. There's no algorithm. You can't figure out a system for it. You just got to be at the right time, at the right place, and hope it goes. So that's what we're hoping for this summer. But it's a tricky place to be with the theatricals right now, because we are like, I don't know, should we go for it or not?
See, me personally, because I've got my issues, I would be more than happy to pay $25 to rent for, say, give me 24 hours to watch it. Amazon, some of the stuff that you can rent, you've got 14 days to watch it, but if you start it, you've got 24 hours to finish it. Me personally, all day long, brand new, like blockbuster release, $25, I'll pay it. I will.
Yeah.
Because I'm at home, I'm comfortable, I got my own snacks, if I have to pee, I can pause it, it's more advantageous, in my opinion, to have options.
I agree.
We're in a capitalist market, and they always say, let the market decide. So if you give me two options, if one of those options starts to get better than the other, then the market is deciding. And I think right now Hollywood is so desperate to keep the theaters alive, or the theaters are putting pressure on Hollywood because they're desperate to stay alive, that they're not providing the options that should be there. I just saw AMC theaters, and I railed against them. I saw AMC theaters decided to cherry pick new releases and slap artisan film on them so they can charge more for a ticket. I'm kind of against that. I get it. Money needs to be made, and you're talking millions of dollars in movies and whatnot, but I mean, we're headed for a recession, man. That is not the look to have.
No, I agree. I remember when Netflix was considering buying these theaters and having a monthly subscription rate, and you can come and go as you want, watch whatever you want, whenever you want it. I thought that was a cool idea, but it's still the same thing. You know, it's really nice to sit down with a nice glass of whiskey in your underwear, in your comfortable couch, and watch it. And like you said, if I got to go bathroom or if the kids wake up, I can handle everything, and I can do it at my own convenience. The thing that I do love, though, is the experience of watching it on a big screen with Dolby surround sound. It's pretty hard to beat with the right film.
Well, I mean, okay, how big's your TV, Harley?
I think it's a 65-inch. Not bad. No, not bad. Not at all.
You know, when you're talking, you can get a 65 to an 80-inch TV. You can get Dolby Digital surround in your house. I mean, that experience, I'm not knocking it. It's just, it seems like an argument without a defense. Yeah, it's an argument without a defense, really.
Yeah. No, like I said, I would say 90% of all films I'd probably watch at home comfortably. And then there's that 10% of films that I'm like, I just know what this will look like in a thunderous theater and that screen in front of you.
Well, I think you're also talking movie versus film at that point. Because
probably
films, I'm talking like Citizen Kane, you know, Titanic was a film, you know, the grandiose, these great stories being told versus a movie. I don't need Harold and Kumar in the theater.
No, I don't either. I agree with you on that. It serves no purpose for me at all.
No. Okay, so you have played both, protagonist or villain. Which do you prefer and why? And what kind of headspace is required to play the bad guy?
I prefer villains, in all honesty. I love that you get to color outside the lines. I've never been directed down as a villain. Nobody has ever said, Harley, you're too crazy. It's usually like, yeah, that's awesome. More of that. You know what I mean? When you have to be very proper when you're playing, you know, a protagonist, because you have to be the one everybody roots for. Yeah. So you have to be everyone's boyfriend kind of thing, and it's just a lot of pressure that I don't need. I'd much rather be the villain. I'd much rather be the spoiler of things, and I don't mind that at all. I think it's a lot of fun in all honesty, and I don't care if I get typecast one bit. My very first acting coach said it's better to be typecast than not cast. And I'm like, you know what? I never heard that, but I dig it, and I'm going to start saying it because it makes sense.
Okay, then the second question, or the second part of the question, what kind of headspace do you require to be in to play the bad guy?
I just think you got to be very willing to let go, and you have to be very willing to not judge a character that is awful. You know what I mean? And I think the trickery with that is to really get into their headspace. Now, I don't say Heath Ledger it and take that home with you, but I'm saying you got to commit to that. You got to be totally okay with what you are, but not self-aware of it, because most villains don't see themselves as villains. Like right now, Putin doesn't think he's a villain. Putin thinks he's reuniting the Soviet Union and standing up for his Russia. You know what I mean? It's the delusions of grandeur is what it is.
Perspective.
And I think, that's exactly it. So I think you just have to be willing to go there. And that's one of them things, is like going through it as an actor to whatever degree you need to, but going through whatever's on the page is important.
Do you ever accidentally come home in the character?
I have not done that, but I have had times where I played a character and I couldn't shake what I was feeling. And I remember I played it's a short film. It's completely silent, and it's called A Coma. And I play a plantation owner. The film starts with me whipping my slave to death because my wife was teaching him how to read. So just imagine they measured out me standing in front of this guy who's hanging by his hand with special effects makeup scars all over his back. They measured that out with 6 extra inches, and essentially they had me stand there and whip, and I was breathing, and it was, I was so thankful that I knew the guy playing my victim pretty well, because that one was hard to shake. I remember leaving set, and I always say my goodbyes to everybody before I leave, but I just felt disgusting. I felt dirty. I felt awful. And I literally went home and like I think I took a 45-minute shower. I mean, just felt like, because the whole time leading up to that, I had to say, back then, this is how it was. Back then, this is what they thought. And if they didn't, they couldn't function. They couldn't compete. So they had to. And I just made it that in my head. But then after you've done it, you're back to now. And in a weird way, you embodied all that for a little bit. And it was just...
Makes you feel dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the most I've ever carried home with me. But it was mostly just my own judgment of the character made me sick to my stomach. So that was interesting, though.
Now, you've mentioned it a couple of times. Tale of Tales. What is it?
It is a TV series. Currently, it's I don't know if it qualifies as a Tubi original or a Tubi exclusive anymore, because I know you can buy it on Amazon now. But the only place it's streaming for free is on Tubi. And essentially, it takes place at a strip club. My character runs a strip club, and he's been doing it a while. He's a bit of an underground mobster. He's one of them guys that just find ways to survive, finds ways to thrive. He has no respect for women. He's a user. He uses everybody, and he doesn't really truly care about anyone except himself.
He feels Nick, that he is right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he pretty much feels like he's paid his dues. Now he wants to clean up the table with all the money and move to an island, in the Caribbean, and enjoy the rest of his days. And he feels that it's unfair that he can't, pretty much.
Now, I also know that it's recently cleared eligibility for Primetime Emmy, correct?
Yeah, that was a humbling experience. Somebody entered Blanca Blanco, who's a guest star on the show, and I didn't even know we were eligible. It was literally not on my mind. And whoever it was that entered her went to her and said, "Hey, I entered your show. It's eligible." And she goes, "Is it really?" So she looked into it, and right around that same day, I got an email from the head of Natus saying Telltales is cleared for Primetime Emmys, and it's I don't think I still get it, in all honesty, because it's a big thing. We've had success at film festivals. Some of them have been around a long time. But, when it comes to Oscars and any kind of Academy Award, it's weird to even think that it's within any reach at all. And the fact that we're eligible doesn't mean that we are nominated or anything. But, hey, we have enough people getting entered that somebody believes in us and somebody believes in them. So it's definitely a cool experience. And I think, especially as Detroiters, to have a show that might be up for some Emmys would be pretty cool. I would say for anybody who's watched it, because a lot takes place at a strip club, our music is incredible. Including our intro. I've heard so many people say that it's the most catchiest intro song that they've heard. So yeah, it's cool. I really humbling more than anything, though, because I bet you we had not a tenth of the budget of the people we're competing against.
And it's not the size of the budget; it's the product that you put forth. So I do want to say, at least congratulations on being eligible, and that somebody's nominated for the Primetime Emmy. I mean, even if you don't win, it's just to be nominated as the honor.
Yeah, I mean, if we get a nomination, that would be incredible. But like I said, when we found out we were eligible, I was kind of blown away.
Wow.
But yeah, thank you.
I got to ask you though. Now I know the answer to this, but this is a nice segue to be able to let you talk about it. What is Painted Creek Productions?
So that is the production company me and my wife founded some years ago. It is the umbrella of how we produce our films. So me and my wife Kaiti, who plays a really awful cop. She's awful to Nick, anyways. But she plays a cop in the series of Telltales. She co-produced that with me and two other producers. But that's our umbrella. We've made now 10 feature films, a TV series, and 5 shorts under that umbrella.
That's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't even get over it. It's been 7 years, and part of that 2 years has been a pandemic. So it's pretty wild to think that we've been able to do this. And everybody's like, how do you even have time? And I'm like, well, this is what I do. Like,
you don't like to sit still.
No, this week we have a film in post-production right now, and we just locked pictures. So I'm meeting with my composers, my sound design team, my color graders, and my special effects people, just to get everything. So right now is super exciting part because I'm getting all these department heads involved, and we're 2 months away from a final film again. And it's so exciting, especially when you start getting close and the film is about to wrap up. I can't wait. I literally can't wait.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Harley, being 15 years in radio, I have an amazing network of musicians. So if you ever need music, just hit me up and I can recommend some amazing independent people that would probably kill for the opportunity to be in a movie.
We need to talk, and especially I have this Detroit loyalty.
Well, they're not all from Detroit, but I would send you them first.
Yes, that's how and that's how I'd like it. We on our last TV series, we had Twisted was one of the featured acts. And Andy and Randy and Alan Lynch, which is a Detroit record label, and they produced with Rihanna and Eminem and all kinds of. They actually scored the whole series, and their original artists is the music that you hear in the series. So we have a killer soundtrack for it as well.
So I know graphic designers, animators, video editors, marketing people, musicians. I have a giant little black book.
Yes, we need to do this for sure.
And I also know a guy that has a killer radio voice.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
So you've been involved in the filmmaking process from multiple angles, everything from writing to producing to directing to acting to editing. What process do you enjoy the most and why? So
there are 2 things that I absolutely love, and that are great outlets for me. And acting is one of them, because I learn so much about myself when I become someone else, because I have to analyze all their decisions and why they do them and where those decisions come from. And I have to create a backlog of who they are. And when I do that, I compare that a lot to me, and I go, oh, wow. And it widens me and my scope as a human being to be more understanding of others, I think. So I really love that about acting. The escape of getting to be somebody else is amazing. And then, the whole thing of digging into myself to become them. The next thing I love is directing, because directing, you guide the whole story. Instead of, the story doing this, you can make sure that it's doing whatever it needs to do at the right place. You're there to guide the actors to remember where you're coming from, where you're going, who are you and how do you feel about the person across from you, and to really go through it. And when you understand acting and you become an actor's director, it becomes even more so. So I love those two because the creative process in both of those is amazing. Writing to me is an escape. I would do it whether my stuff ever got put out or not.
I agree.
To me, I can lock myself out, get a story on paper. I feel better. I've scrapped more scripts than I've ever put out, but I just need the stories to come out.
No, I understand that. I had a story roll around in my head for 5 years before I finally sat down, and I managed to. It ended up being a short story. I actually published it on Amazon.
Cool.
But I sat down at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, you sound like me.
And by 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I had 19 pages and the short story was done.
Yeah. That's how I write too. Tunnel vision, lock myself up, can't talk to me. I don't hear things. There could be an earthquake and I'm just tinkering.
My wife brought me 3 meals, and when I'd look up from the screen, I was like, oh, there's food.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She knows too, like when I'm working on the show or when I'm editing or doing any number of the things that I have to do to make this baby run, because it is very much a one-man show for the most part. I have a little help here and there. It's odd doesn't exist. Whatever you need, either put a pin in it until later or figure it out for yourself, because I'm locked in. Yeah,
that's me. I mean, and the scary thing is, for me during production, when you're talking, 3 to 4 weeks of shooting, when I come home after a 12 to 14 hour day, I sit down and I review everything I did today. And then I got to get up early because I have to plan everything out. And it's like, and I don't even notice it. Like every single time we have a film, I lose a bunch of weight and all kinds of stuff happen to me. And I don't even notice because I'll forget to eat all day if nobody tells me to. It's unbelievable. Directing is so consuming. It literally takes you over. There's nothing like that, even more than acting, actually, because when you're acting, you can, to some degree, have your character figure it out, be you, and then they say, okay, we're going to start blocking you. Now you can start getting into the headspace and you can kind of become, and then you wrap it up and they say cut, and now you got to kind of shake it off. It's kind of like you're wearing this internal character or something, and you can shake it off a lot easier. But as a director, it doesn't end. It because you're directing from the very beginning to the very end.
Now, you mentioned Ash and Bone earlier. I know it's finishing the festival circuit. Tell me a little bit about the movie.
So I'm a big horror fan, and I was very careful of getting into making horror movies because I know the horror fans are
rabid.
Yes, but they're also hard on their own genres. Mm-hmm. And if you're a gore fan and you get into the wrong movie and you end up at a Paranormal Activity or whatever, they'll hate it. If you're a paranormal guy and you end up at a Friday the 13th,
like a splatter flick,
Cheese Fest, and they'll hate it. So you got to be real careful getting in to horror, and you got to be really solid with your message so that you don't get people disappointed. So it took me a bit to get my first horror movie. I did Agramon's Gate, which is a demonic possession style supernatural thriller horror. Mm-hmm. Ash and Bone is not that. Ash and Bone, I wanted to, because what I'm doing is I'm giving nods to things that I loved. So the Exorcist and what is it called? The TV Poltergeist. Mm-hmm. I wanted to give a nod to that style of movies with Agramon's Gate. With Ash and Bone, I wanted to give a nod to a genre that I that I really fell in love with in the early 2000s. And it's sad to say because they're remakes, but House of Wax, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, and The Hills Have Eyes, all those backyard hillbilly crazies. I just love when regular people get mixed up with not regular people, because it's fascinating to see them collide, because they're just so unaware. The regular people, it's like they're not equipped at all to deal with it.
I mean, let's be honest. If you put me or you into a situation where we ran into some cannibalistic hillbilly rednecks or hillbilly murderers, I don't know if I would know what to do.
I mean, I know I'd go out swinging, but that's about it. That's the one thing I know about me. But no, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, how far are you willing to take things? And that's the thing with Ash and Bone. It's we're talking inbred hillbillies. We set it in Michigan. We shot it in East Tawas and in Dryden, and so we were kind of around the real parts with the real woods and stuff, and the guys we got to play our villains, they came through. I mean, they're terrifying, and at the end of the screening that we did at Chinese Theater, there were so many people asking questions about them, and I already told them when we wrapped it. I said, you better get ready to go to horror cons for the rest of your life, signing pictures of these two psychopaths, because this is a damn good movie, and you guys are a big reason that it is as good, and it has been very well received. We've literally had festival accolades from all over the globe, and when we released the trailer, we had it got picked up pretty much almost every country that has a big horror following. We had huge things in Brazil. Germany goes rabid over horror, so they were all over the place. Portugal was posting all kinds of things. Great Britain had all kinds of reports. We had a couple of things from Sweden, which is kind of cool because it's always nice when the old home country roots you up. But yeah, it's a crazy, very intense hillbilly inbred fest coming after some really normal people. It's a hell of a ride.
I'm gonna make sure I sit down and watch it. I love horror. I grew up on horror. I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street and all those movies and movies like that, Sleepaway Camp and stuff at like 6-7 years old. Like my mom was a horror fan. Yeah, well, she showed me Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was about that age too. Yeah. And then she had the gall to ask me later in life, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
Yeah, I wonder.
So like I love the horror genre. I love most of them. My wife is into the paranormal, movies like The Conjuring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're okay, but like for me, it's like the same thing. It's rinse, repeat. It's ooh, there's a shadow. Ooh, there's a noise. Ooh, there's a jump scare. And I'm like, I'm bored. Yeah. Whereas like Sleepaway Camp and your Freddy Krueger and your Jason, those are slasher flicks, and there's blood and guts and gore. I also like the makeup effects and stuff that gets done, the special effects. So like I'm sitting there analyzing. I was like, I wonder if they use this method for the blood, or they did this, or how much of that is latex and how much of it is tissue paper, and all these things. So Ash and Bone sounds like it's right up my alley. So I'm definitely gonna have to make sure I check it out. I do want to ask you about another movie though, because in my research, I found that you were actually scared or a little nervous to take on a role in the movie in Bennett's Song. Yeah.
So one of my partners wrote it, and it is this beautiful romantic comedy with family values, and she based the character on me. So I was playing somebody that was probably 70% me, and that's weird because you kind of have to define yourself, and Cole is like me, but not like me. So it's really weird to contain him and hold him. And to be honest with you, it was scarier the second time around. We did a sequel to that, and I had to go back to playing him. And I learned all my lines. I've read the script 100 times, and I was very comfortable, but I could not for the life of me find the character. And I remember, like, the night before, I'm reading lines with my wife, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I can't find Cole. Everything I say just doesn't feel right. It feels like I'm trying to be Cole. And I was like, I don't even know what to do. But like, I'm gonna get a good night's sleep, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. And all I needed was the rest of the cast, and I fell right into character. And it was smooth sailing from there on out. But I literally was having almost a panic attack because I felt like nothing I said and did felt like Cole at all.
Which is funny because it's 70% you.
I know. It was really weird. But I think the hard part about defining what part is me and what's Cole, where does he begin and I end, and because it's such a family movie, the woman that played my wife and I, we really connected, and we became super close and good friends. The kids started doing little groups on Messenger and on Snapchat, and we were like literally like families when we were shooting this. So when it was over, it like broke all of our hearts because we didn't want it to end, because it was this alternate reality that we lived in. And then we took 2.5 years off, and then we did the sequel. And it was so weird because you had to kind of like, okay, all right, I guess I'm going to be him again. And it's like, it was super scary in all honesty. And I'm lucky that I found him in the rest of the cast, because I was literally ready to bail. I would not really, because I'm not a quitter.
Right.
But I was afraid of my performance not turning in.
I got 2 more questions for you before we move into the interview roulette section.
All
right. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. You have a career in MMA, or you had a career in MMA, but I noticed that you have hosting and commentator creds for MMA. I'm sure coming from a background of martial arts and mixed martial arts, it was, I'm going to assume, and asking, was it strange to be on the other side of that, talking about what's going on in the ring versus being in the ring?
No, actually it was, to me, it was supernatural, really easy. It started when I was coaching, and one of the guys that was at the gym, who was running a show, we're standing there and we're talking, and I'm coaching my fighters, and he's like, "Hey, Harley, what do you think about doing the commentary for my show?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, we just got picked up by whatever it was, My TV 20, I think it started with." And I'm like, "Sounds cool." No training. I talked to my training partner, one of my black belts in judo, Steve LaFrey, and we showed up, and it was like we'd done it our whole life right away. It was the strangest thing ever. And then we've just kind of kept going, and it's a blast. And it's nice too, because, I'm retired from the fighting game. So to be able to still have a part of that fighting game with me, to get to see the people, like our WXC is a big organization, and essentially what happens is, they put the people that are right on the cusp of breaking into the UFC, they're the ones fighting in our cage. So to see them before they break through and break out is really, really cool. Like Chaos Williams right now, he's a hot shot in the UFC. I've did commentary for probably 7 or 8 of his fights leading up to this. I know the guy well, and I remember he's another one of them that I just like. That dude is special. He's gonna do something. Yeah, pretty excited. It's fun.
All right. Do you have any upcoming projects that you can or want to talk about?
I do want to say, because we just locked picture on Beneath Us All, and it is our first creature movie. It is a vampire story, and I essentially rebooted vampires. So this origin is a Viking origin.
Ooh.
So we're starting the film in Viking days, and we don't really know what happened, but somebody has killed a kid. They can't kill him, so what they do is they stick him in a crypt, they haul him across the Atlantic and bury him. And then they seal him with an Yggdrasil pendant, and then they go back to Scandinavia. Well, that thing is in that coffin for 1,200 years, starving until it becomes unsealed by a rebellious, what is she, foster child. And it's a really unique thing, because when she opens the crypt, this creature has been in there, like I said, for 1,200 years. So at this point, he's almost Smeagol. He's confused. He doesn't know what he is. He's pathetic almost. Well, she feels bad, takes him home, puts him up in a stable, and rekindles him. And that was not a good move. Let's put it that way.
No. You know, I joke all the time. My wife loves animals of all types. And I joke all the time. You are the only person that I know that could be standing in front of a wild cheetah and be like, pss, 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 pss.
Oh, yeah.
Come here, kitty. Let me hug you.
Right.
So it sounds like this girl in the movie is along those same lines. Oh, let
A
me
little bit. Yep.
Okay, Harley, you have
Yes.
made it through all of my other questions about your career, and you have survived. Are you ready to play interview roulette?
I am ready.
I asked you to pick five numbers before we got started, and I told you they corresponded to questions. These are their questions in the order that you chose them. I'm not going to tell you the numbers because I don't want other people to watch this and be like, okay, I don't want that number.
Yeah.
Question number 1.
All right.
What word or phrase do you say too much?
Oh, man. I'd probably say bro to too many people that are so not bros. I'm a bit of a slut when it comes to that word. I dish it around.
You are a bro slut. You heard it here first.
All right.
Question number 2. What is your kryptonite?
Oh, good food, man.
What cuisine? What specific cuisine?
Oh, I'm not even that. Like, it's just good food. Like, so a great steak will make me lose my marbles. Salmon can make me lose my marbles. Really good, like kung pao chicken is like, I have so many meals that I love. My mom's cooking pretty much everything she makes. My wife's mac and cheese is just, I don't even understand. It's just mac and cheese, right? Like,
right.
Why is it magical? I don't get it.
Let me ask you this. Your wife's mac and cheese, does it go in the oven?
It is, no, she makes it first in a thing, then it goes in an oven.
That's why.
Yes.
It goes in the oven.
Okay.
That's why it's good. All right. So we've established you're a slut for the word bro and a slut for food. Let's keep it rolling.
I am.
What would be worse? You can't play music anymore, or you can't listen to music anymore?
Because of the fact that I'm not as talented as I'd like to be, definitely listening. I use music all the time. So when I am in a mood, if I need to chill, you get some Bob Marley on, it's like my shoulders go from here to, and when I'm driving, I can literally drive from here to Miami without a problem. You get me some classic rock and throw some metal in around the corner, and give me maybe some hardcore, music alongside with that, like just stuff that moves me. I love that because I used to be a break dancer. I love that whole R&B, hip hop as well. I do like the old style of hip hop a lot better than the new style. I think Run DMC was the height of it all, and I think we've never recovered.
Wow. Actually, no, there's still a lot of good new hip hop. The problem is people don't realize that rap and hip hop are separate. Rap is the crap that gets prepackaged and shoved down your throats that sounds like they're half drugged when they're singing it.
Yes.
Hip hop has a message, and you don't hear a lot of that on the radio because it has a message. It is intelligent, So I
agree with you with that for sure.
Okay. What is something that you love that is considered vintage?
Oh, vinyl.
Oh, yeah.
Love vinyl. I play way more records than anything else. We have all kinds of means to do this. The only time that I don't listen to vinyl is when I'm not home. If I'm home and I listen to music, it's vinyl.
Yeah, I got to agree. I have a record player and I bought it a couple of years ago, and my wife was like, "Why are you buying that?" And I was like, "Because I really like how vinyl sounds." There's like CD quality is texture. Fine and everything, but there's so much texture and warmth and life in it. Not every artist sounds good on vinyl. I will say that.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
But I got an album from an artist named Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. He's got this old vintage sound to him, and he's a newer artist, and his album on vinyl was just perfect. That vintage sound that he had mixed with the warmth and the hiss and the clicks and the pops that come with vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh man. I highly recommend it.
I have to check that out. There's a Haley something that does the jukebox, Haley Reinhardt or something like that. I didn't even realize that jukebox sound is like, I think her name is Haley Reinhardt or something. I'll look, but it's the same thing. There's just something kind of magical about it. And I believe in that stuff. I really do. I remember, having my first meeting at Chateau Marmont in Hollywood. And it was like, you can feel all the greats who's been there, who's, it's all that aura is around and in the air. It's just crazy, but you can feel it. It's tangible. And the same thing with vinyl. That texture, it's a new dimension, extra dimension.
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of records and stuff. I've got all my mom's old records and whatnot, and like just the tactile feel of the record and the slip cover, and if you go back far enough, they have all those really cool inserts. I've got an album stored away
and all kinds of stuff.
It's a Three Dog Night album, and it's got the tarot cards that were in it, the oversized cards.
Oh, nice.
I've got a copy of Cheech and Chong's The Big Bamboo, and it's still got the rolling paper in it.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I know most of you that are watching this are wondering, how the hell does it still have the rolling paper in it? We know you like the jazz cabbage. I have respect. That's why it's in there.
Yep. But you wanted to.
Oh, many times. I've always been too broke to try and fill that thing. Okay, last question. Now, I know you said that your musical ability isn't as good as you'd like it to be. But imagine if you were at a level where you would like it to be. If you could go on tour and open for any artist, living or dead, who would it be?
I'd say the Stones farewell tour, man.
Which one?
Yeah, right. the last one.
Okay. Because I think they've said farewell like 6 times now.
They've been saying bye now, and you're still here. Yes. But man, they still somehow do it. You know who we saw a couple of years ago that would kind of surprised me at how good? Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
That dude, he sounds better in a live performance than his records virtually. And he's not aging either. I'm like, is he a vampire? You know what I mean? And he's Canadian too, so it could be a Canadian vampire.
Oh, it's just because they've got better healthcare. That's all.
That's probably it. You're right. Dude, you're probably not a joke.
All right, Harley Wallen, thank you so much. I've had a great time talking with you. I hope it's been good for you.
Yeah, this has been awesome, and we definitely got to link up. We have too much in common.